So when I went to Europe, I think I mostly went to Italy. Yeah, no, mostly Italy. They had, you know, they still have towns from, you know, they have like medieval towns, and going back all the way before there were cars, obviously. And I was saying earlier how, you know, historic towns that were designed and built before cars were invented, they are much nicer to walk around in, because they were designed for pedestrians in mind. Like, it's remarkable how nice they are. I went to Rome as well, although Rome is interesting because it's the capital, right? And so the like parts of it is historic, but then they've also put cars into the historic city, and so some of it is nice to walk around in, and then some of it is just like a lot of cars. It's a strange mixture, a strange juxtaposition. No, up to there, and then we stop. Yeah, that's stuff we don't need to worry about. So that's packed ice in there. Although parts of Hong Kong, I guess also parts of Japan, they're so dense that the city starts becoming three-dimensional, and I don't just mean like skyscrapers. So in Hong Kong, for example, in the downtown area, they call it Central. Like the street level would be cars. And like there's a bit of sidewalk, but you don't really use the sidewalk because one level up there'll be pedestrian bridges, like sky bridges, and then there'll be like shopping malls inside all the buildings, and so it's all completely open, and you can just walk through everything. So there's like one layer of cars and a subway underneath, subway, cars, and then pedestrians are above. And that's kind of nice as a pedestrian experience, although also a little unusual because like you're grade separated from all the cars, and also because all the pedestrian pathways goes through the buildings. It's a different geography then, because it's a completely artificial geography of sky bridges and pedestrian malls. That's one story up. Hong Kong's not the only city that has that. Other cities have that too. Is that right? That's not right. No, that's not right. Look at this. like a completely artificial geography. That goes into there. There's a hole underneath. I guess we just don't worry about that. That's, and then this, and then this sticks out to there. Not that one. This goes to there, but that needs to be solid underneath. To there. Is that right? No, because that's actually there. Technically. It's not obvious why though. And then that there, etc. Right. So on top of that, we have the prismarine, like that, and there actually. That should be like that. Don't think we worry about that. That, I believe, should be like that. And then that's fine. Let me go underneath. Just double check this. So that's fine, that's fine. We got to here, right? Put packed ice in there. Packed ice underneath there. That. And the other side. Which I think I should probably put the slabs underneath there. That makes a lot of sense. There's no wires here. But we've dug it out, and I'm thinking maybe we should pave this with something. Not entirely sure what. I mean, we can pave it with prismarine. Let's see. glowstone down the middle. Wow. Okay, you can do this. Just trying to figure out. Yeah, let's pave this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There and there. Some parts of cities are quite nice. The Wellington waterfront has been quite well built more recently. The Te Papa Museum, which is like the National Museum of New Zealand, was built along the waterfront, and along with that they renovated the waterfront. So it's quite nice to walk around there. Except the last time I was there weren't that many businesses in that area, so like it's nice to walk around in, but there's not that much to do except go to the museum. Maybe they changed that now, like you have to put in the infrastructure first before the businesses can move in. The Auckland waterfront, they have put a lot of work into as well, partly because of the America's Cup series, which having won the America's Cup a few times, Auckland needed to host the America's Cup, and for that they renovated the waterfront to try to get the tourists to spend money and whatnot. So again, the Auckland waterfront is kind of nice, but also because it's all new, all the shops are kind of expensive. Like all the cafes and shops, because they're all new. Although not too far away, there's an older part of the city. Like the old harbour, like old warehouses that haven't been warehouses for like decades. And some of those have been renovated into like apartments and offices and lofts and all that. And that's kind of nice. And because they're old buildings renovated, they're less expensive to rent, and therefore the shops can be less expensive. The Britomart precinct, they call it, which is also where the train station is. I haven't been down there for a while, so I don't actually know for sure if it's lively and booming. There is talk of moving the port somewhere else. At the moment, the ports of Auckland are pretty much like right at the waterfront in the middle of the city. And you might think that's convenient, but it's not, because all the trains and trucks that carry the freight out of the port have to contend with the inner city traffic. So it's actually not that convenient to have your freight port in the middle of the city. But that land is worth a lot of money now because, as I said, it's in the middle of the city. And also moving the freight port would cost a lot of money, and so people aren't doing anything useful about it right now. Although in my opinion, and in the opinion of most people, eventually we should move the port somewhere else. That makes more sense for the freight, and also frees up a lot of prime real estate for the city. But just thinking about earlier, talking about, you know, what cities are nice to walk around in. Factors like that makes a lot of difference. Like, you know, having a lot of trucks and trains coming out of your freight port into your city, like that part of the city is disastrous to walk around in because there's just a lot of heavy trucks all the time. And if you move the port, then all of that would also move, and so it'll be an opportunity to make that place a lot nicer to walk around in. I guess what I'm trying to say is everything has economic costs and benefits, and you have to consider how much it costs to change things. This should be out there. Seattle? I've visited Seattle, and when I was there, so the Seattle, they had a highway like between the city and the coast and the sea. And it wasn't just any old highway, it was an elevated highway. So you had this city that's right next to a really nice beach, but there's a highway right between where all the buildings are and the nice beach. And some smartass, back in the 50s I guess, or around that time, thought that, hey, our city needs more highways. Let's put in a highway where all the cars can travel quickly and conveniently around the city. And they cut off the city from the sea, and so that, like, the highway is of course like noise pollution and also traffic and also, you know, like fumes. And then underneath the highway it's like this concrete and dark and damp, and you know, it's just not very nice. But then on one side is a really nice city, on the other side is a really nice beach, and then in the middle of it is this really ugly highway. And I remember at the time they were saying that they're gonna demolish that thing and get rid of it. I believe they have actually done that by now. I can look it up, but you know, I have to tab out to look it up. But that was the philosophy back then, back in the 50s, 60s. It's just build highways everywhere. Because that was what they were doing at the time. And in a way, I'm kind of worried about China right now. In that, like, the Chinese are building a lot of infrastructure in the past decade or so. I'm slightly worried that they might make the same sort of mistakes, is that they'll put in this all high-tech infrastructure everywhere, and then later on they'll regret some of it, possibly, because it turns out some of it is not really in the right place. we'll see. We'll find out.